Thank you, Mr. President. This emergency spending appropriation bill, the ninth in the series, covers a period to June 6th, provides an all-funds appropriation of $5.45 billion and a general fund appropriation of $1.236 billion.
Senator DeFrancisco, why do you rise?
I just have a couple of questions of Senator Kruger, if he'd yield.
Senator Kruger, will you yield for some questions from Senator
My
DeFrancisco?
pleasure, Mr. President.
Senator DeFrancisco.
Senator Kruger, it's my understanding that since the leaders' meeting last week, during which there was an agreement to have the staffs of the minority and majority meet last Thursday, that such a meeting did in fact occur, a meeting among the staff members. Is that correct?
Yes, it did.
And can you tell me out of that meeting whether or not any agreements were reached?
Through you, Mr. President, the meetings were very fruitful, to the extent that what we are doing is, as was expressed out of the five-way leaders meeting of last week, targets are being looked at to see exactly what the $2 billion gap is and how we approach filling it. As you well know, tomorrow there is a five-way leaders meeting scheduled for 11 a.m.
Would Senator Kruger continue to yield?
Yes, I do, Mr. President.
Senator Kruger will continue to yield. Senator DeFrancisco.
Senator Kruger, at that leaders meeting last week, that was a week ago, and there's been no announcement as to what the any announcements about the $2.5 million as to how that's going to be debated among committees of the rank and file members.
There, through you, Mr. President,
Yes.
it's billion, 2 billion, and yes, there are targets. Those targets will be discussed tomorrow at the five-way meeting, and with the leadership agreeing, the next step, hopefully, is the process to begin conference committees.
All right, and Mike, would you yield to another question?
Senator Kruger, we continue to yield.
Yes, I do, Mr.
So the
President.
targets have been set at this point in time as to the $2.5 billion gap. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not. I'm saying that there are on the radar screen places where we would be looking toward, hopefully, with the agreement of moving forward to filling those target numbers.
Would he continue to yield?
Senator Kruger,
Yes, I
continue
do,
to yield.
Mr. President.
Does that mean we're nearing the critical mass since they're on the target screen?
I guess when we're finished with this, through you, Mr. President, when we're finished with this entire process, what we're going to do is develop a new glossary of terms as to what this budget negotiation is all about. So you can add a radar screen to it as well.
All right. Lastly, Senator Kruger, the other thing that was mentioned at the last leaders meeting was the fact that there had been $6.5 billion in agreed upon budget gap closers. Could you relate to this chamber what those $6.5 billion of budget gap closers are?
I'm assuming you want Senator Kruger to yield to that question.
Yes. Would you yield to that?
Through you, Mr. President, I think what we're talking about are small closures that have been tentatively agreed to. I do not have a list currently, but I certainly will attempt to have staff put one together and furnish it to you.
Would Senator Kruger continue to yield?
Yes, I do, Mr. President.
$6.5 billion is not a small amount of budget gap closers, at least on my parameters. So you're saying, though, as to the $6.5 billion of budget gap closers, that's why we only need $2.5 billion that we got to worry about. You mean there's a list presently as to what those are?
Through you, Mr. President, there is there's not a comprehensive list. We will attempt to put together a list and furnish it to you.
I don't have any further questions. I'll just speak on the bill.